Hey everyone, it's the Ioniq guy. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than my normal style. And that's because a few weeks ago, I reached out to Hyundai USA's public relations department, and I had a very nice conversation with their manager, Miles Johnson. And we talked for about 45 minutes on the phone about the Ioniq 5, the Ioniq brand. So I asked Miles a lot of questions, and most of these questions I compiled from the Ioniq forum, the Facebook groups, the subreddit, and they're questions that have been asked for 6, 7, 8 months now. And I figured it was time that we got some answers to at least some of them. There were a lot of questions that he was hesitant to answer just because they like to keep some of their cards close to their vest. And I did what I could. I didn't push him too much, but it was a good conversation. Learned a few interesting things that I wasn't expecting to hear. And I'm going to share those with you right now in this video. So sit back and enjoy. So one of the first questions I asked Miles was about the 2 years of complimentary Electrify America charging sessions. And he told me that they signed a 3-year contract with Electrify America. And so 2022 model year is the first year. So for the 2023 and the 2024 models, you will all be getting 30 minutes of complimentary EA charging sessions. So that was really nice to hear. I hadn't heard that anywhere else. So there's your first little bit of information. I asked Miles about the difference in range between the all-wheel drive and the rear-wheel drive, because the rear-wheel drive is rated for 303 miles and the all-wheel drive is rated for 256. And this answer I was expecting to get. He told me that the discrepancy there is mostly due to the weight of the electric motor, all the wiring, and whatever other hardware is associated with a second motor. So that was pretty much what I was anticipating to hear. So another question I asked him was how the all-wheel drive range was calculated, because in the US, we have 19-inch wheels and 20-inch wheels on the Limited. So he told me that the EPA takes an average between both cars with those sets of wheels. So they take the number that they got with the 19-inch wheels, and they take the number they got with the 20-inch wheels, and they average them together. So suffice it to say, the all-wheel drive SEL will be a little bit more efficient and have further range than the Limited all-wheel drive with its 20-inch wheels. So I thought that was interesting that they took the average. Another question with an interesting answer that I wasn't expecting was I asked him, how come iPedal can't be set as the default drive mode when you start the car? It always defaults back to level 1, 2, or 3, or wherever you had it set. So what he told me was that the EPA mandates that the automakers have the default drive mode go to the most efficient setting. So in this case, that would be level 1, 2, or 3. iPedal isn't the most efficient. So I guess that's the answer we've all been looking for. I know I've wondered that, and I know a lot of people other complain about every time I get in the car, I got to change the drive mode back to iPedal. Apparently it's an EPA mandate, so I don't think there's any way to get around that one in the future, unfortunately. So I also asked Miles about why the rear-wheel drive wasn't offered with the option to spec it with a heat pump for the battery heater. I, myself, living in New England, I would prefer to have the rear-wheel drive with more range and faster charging. And unfortunately, we don't have that option at this point in time. His answer wasn't all that surprising, and it was that they want to be able to differentiate between the models and possibly add it in the future. And I guess for them, that's just more opportunity for people to trade in their existing car and upgrade to a different car. So it's strictly just improvements during the life cycle of the car. That's the reason why they omitted having the option to spec a heat pump in the rear-wheel drive Ioniq 5. So at this point, I started asking him a lot of questions about software updates, the over-the-air update that we hopefully will be getting soon. And he didn't really want to answer too many of them. I don't know if he had the answers to these questions, but I asked him when we can expect the OTA update, how often we'll be getting updates after the fact, and he didn't really want to bite on any of those. So unfortunately for you guys, I haven't gotten many answers on software and future software for the car. And actually, when I asked him some of these questions, he gave the most public relations answer ever, which was, "Thank you for the comment. We appreciate the feedback." So that was about the end of that conversation, and he used that answer on quite a few questions, unfortunately. So something else I asked him was about the Kona Electric, and going forward, if the Kona was going to fit into their lineup for the foreseeable future. And his answer was yes. They just did a mid-cycle refresh on it. The car's been out for, I think, 3 years now. So suffice it to say, if they just did a mid-cycle refresh after 3 years, it'll probably still be sold 3 years from now. So at least for the next few years, the Kona Electric is going to live alongside the Ioniq 5, which I think is a good thing because it's a very good car. My girlfriend has one, and it's a fun little car to drive. If you don't need a ton of space, you don't need towing capacity, I think it's a great option. So I asked Miles a question that I've been wondering about my car. The SEL here in the United States has fixed headrests, which I am not a fan of because I don't typically have rear seat passengers, and I usually pop them out so that I can have better visibility out the rear window. And his answer was they needed trim level differentiation. So the limited trim here in the United States is the only one that gets adjustable/removable rear headrests. So I asked Miles about the biggest question of all, which is, why is there no rear wiper? What's going to be done about it in the future? And he wasn't familiar with the fact that the 2023 model in Europe has already been announced, and it's going to be a camera-based system, similar to what GM's been doing for a few years, where the rear view mirror acts as a screen projecting what's out the back of the car. And so he didn't really know much about that. I guess he hadn't seen the spec sheet yet for Europe. But if you didn't already know that, European models, people who are going to be purchasing European spec Ioniq 5s, who are now being pushed to the 23 model year, have been told there's all these different updates coming to their cars in 2023. So look out for that. We'll see if that solves the big issue that a lot of people have with this car. So another interesting market differentiation is that here in the United States, our glove box is just a traditional glove box, just a big empty void. And in all the other markets around the world, they get this really cool pull-out drawer type glove box. And I personally wish that we had the glove drawer here. I think it's more useful. Our glove box is massive and you can fit a lot in there, but sitting in the driver's seat, if you have something in the rearmost corner of it, it's almost impossible to reach. I mean, I'll show you right now. From sitting here, I can't even touch the glove box, and I'm 6'2". I have long arms. So to get in there, I literally have to go like this, and that's not fun. So I think it would have been far more useful to have the glove drawer that can just pop out, easily reached right here. He did say the reason they did that was because, of course, here in America, everything needs to be bigger, so we need a bigger glove box, and the glove drawer has the slides on the side, which eat into the glove box area. So, and an homage to Rady's Rides, I can fit about 4 boxes of Twinkies in there and maybe a giant bag of Skittles. So for all you dog lovers out there, I asked him whether something like dog mode in Teslas would arrive for our cars, because nobody wants a good Samaritan coming by and smashing out their windows when they see a dog hanging out in the car, even though the air conditioning is keeping him nice and cool. And he said they have no comment on that, maybe something in the future. But for now, I don't have good news for you dog lovers out there in terms of that. So an interesting thing that I saw on the forum probably 2 months ago, somebody said that they heard that Hyundai was going to be having their own pseudo charging network by utilizing their dealers and the DC fast chargers that they're installing for Ioniq certification to sell these cars. And I asked him about this, and he said, I have never heard about that, but he said he was going to reach out to some other groups, and I have yet to hear back. If I hear back at some point during the next few weeks, I will post a caption in this video saying what the answer is. I asked him about the Ioniq 6 and the Ioniq 7. I know we've seen some test cars out and about. I know Bjorn over in Norway spotted an Ioniq 6 about a month ago, I believe, and it's starting to show its face. And I saw a photo yesterday. The Ioniq 6 was charging at an EA station. I'm not sure where exactly it was, but it's got to be pretty close around the corner. And I know the Ioniq 7, which is the larger SUV, brethren to the Ioniq 5, probably coming out sometime next year. I know Kia's version of their larger SUV is supposedly coming out in early 2023. So fingers crossed that we'll get more details on the future Ioniq lineup pretty soon. So lastly, I asked him about the phantom 12-volt battery drain that we've been seeing. I know Dave Connor, Kyle Connor's father from Out of Spec Reviews, he had some issues, and he made a long, in-depth video about the issues he was encountering with the 12-volt. I know Mr. EV over in the UK did a video about a very similar situation. I personally haven't had any issue. No dead 12-volt here. I've been able to use my car perfectly fine since I bought it at the end of January. And Miles said he hadn't heard about it, and he told me to send him links to the videos. So I sent him Dave's video. I sent him Mr. EV's video. And he told me he was going to forward those on to the engineering team. I would imagine at this point they've probably already heard about it. But yeah, he didn't have a real good answer for me on that. I don't know how big of an issue it is. I think I saw a poll on Reddit a few weeks ago where somebody asked how many people have had issues with their 12-volt. And of the people who voted, it was a very minuscule number of people actually had issues with their 12-volt. So anyway, guys, those are some of the questions I got answered from Hyundai. I know I didn't get answers to everything. I tried my best. On a completely different note, I have something I'm excited to announce in this video, which is I spent the better part of a week designing a updated eyewear holder for the Ioniq 5's magnetic area. So here's the old wooden version that I forget what his name is, but he lovingly called it the Pinocchio holder, which I thought was kind of funny. But these were just getting too time consuming for me to make. I'm still going to make a small amount of them every once in a while. I'm going to have to raise the price on them though, just because they take so much time to make. So I went ahead and I designed a new version that I am able to 3D print. Takes a lot less time, better quality control, and I think it actually works better than the wooden version. So these are going to be available on my Etsy store. They use stronger rare earth magnets. I'm going to have them in multiple colors eventually. I'm also considering maybe doing like a fake mustache or something on here. I know a few of you have asked about putting a mustache on it, so if that's something you're into, leave a comment down below and let me know if you'd like a mustache, or I can do a really long nose if you want something like that. We'll get crazy with it. 3D printing really opens up the door for doing quick and painless things like that to these. So yeah, if you're interested, click the link below. These are going to be about $17.50 plus shipping and handling. So anyway, as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and have a nice day. Take care.